you give me a countdown so I can hit stream whenever you do.
I hit stream. We are live on my side.
All right. I am live as well.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the CR6 podcast. We are joined by our guest tonight. You'll notice the furry little kitten on the left. This is Chayton, the captain of your Premier League CR6 champions, Akron Zips. Welcome.
Hi, how are you guys?
I'm good.
Well enough. It's good to have a guest on here, get a little more insight onto how the Premier League actually shook out. And I mean, we have to go over your impressive resume from this last season, in that it just shows the dominance that you all had as a team. Now, you're the captain and the coach for your team, but
that's
you
correct.
also participated in not just CR6, but CRSL and the CEA League. So, and you won all three of those, yeah?
Correct. We won all of them, and then for CEA, we won their Open League because we had to go through it to get into their Invite League. So we won that to get into Invite League, and that's what we're about to participate in this upcoming season.
And they announced who was in that league recently, so you probably know a handful of those teams already and kind of already know what to expect, yeah?
That is very correct. Yeah, they actually announced all the groups. They split all of the Invite League up into 4 groups, so we know who is in our group, and we're ready to. I think we match them 2 times during the season, so pretty ready for that.
For the listeners out there who don't know, could you explain to us what the Invite League is?
Yeah, so Open League is anyone can join. Anyone that has a team, like college team, they can join that part of the league and play through it. And then the top teams, the top teams will go, that win Open will go into Invite League. So it's like CL, and it's like Challenger League and Pro League in that sense, where you have a certain amount of teams in Pro League and a certain amount of teams in Challenger League. And then there's relegations. So the bottom teams of Pro League will then verse the guys that are in the Challenger League. Pro League, our Pro League being the Invite League and our Challenger League being the Open League. And they would fight over their spot. The people in Pro League will try to fall, and Invite League will fight over their spot for the Open League. And if the Open League guys beat them, they get relegated and stuff gets shifted around. So basically, you have a competing teams for their spots at all times.
Okay.
It's kind of like how CR6 sorted everyone out in that phase 1 and created the Premier, the Open, and the main leagues. It's just they did it all up front in 4 weeks, as opposed to CEA's Invite League taking the entire season, yeah?
That is very correct, yeah. And CRSL does the exact same thing too. They have an Invite League and Open League as well.
So for this, let's focus a little bit on CR6. Now, you guys were dominant from the beginning to the end. I don't think you left the number 1 seed after phase 1. In phase 2, you just stayed at the top. So what was that like, just kind of riding 8 weeks of competition, 12 weeks in total, to get through phase 1, 2, and 3 and just keep that momentum going, just focusing on CR6 specifically?
Yeah, 100%. We, at the very beginning, we versed some challenges. I think during the Open League, the very first week, we were placed actually on our team 3 days before our first match, because what happened was we were originally a club team, and then out of nowhere, our university's like, "Hey, we're gonna see you guys as a varsity team now." So they picked us up. We had to go through official tryouts, and then once all that was done, we ended up playing our first match. I think we dropped one throughout the whole season. We dropped probably a total of 3 maps. We lost a total of 3 maps. Once we got through the Open League and we got into the Premier League, we just saw a consistency that we could play that other teams couldn't play. We were able to, as a team, we play a lot together. I would say we play a lot together more than other teams. So that helps us with our coordination and our communication and everything. I know how my support players are going to play and how my entry frag is going to play, so I can back them up while also backing up my entry frag at the same time.
That's good to have that level of consistency, and it's like a lot of these teams they have those hot flashes, or where like their strategies work against one team, but then they just get demolished by another team because that other team has a slightly different approach. To go so dominant, how well rounded do you think your team is, like from map to map and just consistency?
We definitely do have a we understand the maps a lot. All of us play by ourselves, solo queued, duo queued. We all play a lot, so we understand the maps in total. And then playing together, that knowledge allows us to just be more fluent with each other, and playing a lot allows us to be more fluent. So I feel like we have a well-rounded map pool. There are some maps that we just like every team that don't perform. We just don't perform on that well, and we try to always look at our weaknesses and try to fix them. And so throughout the whole season, we were looking at maps like Border and Consulate, which we were never really that great on at the very beginning. And we ended up scrimming and just running those maps, dry running them, and trying to fix our problems, which over the time, the whole season, we ended up seeing a strong change, allowing us to be a better team and allow us to work better as a team. I think our very last match, which was in the finals, we played Border, and we did get pretty much smoked on that map. I have to say we did not put up that great of a fight, but that is probably one of our weakest maps, and we know that for a fact. So going into this, we wanted to see how we would fend in our off maps, because we have never played it, so we've never been seen in a VOD play that map. So we wanted to see how that would work out against our opponents. It didn't work out in our favor, but after the season was done, we that's all we've been working on. It's just our maps and map pool, and making it so that we don't have a map that we're scared to play, that we have all maps available to us at all times.
Now, Border's I guess you could say Border is one of the more consistently played competitive maps. Is your guys' Border weak because you guys just don't like it, or you guys just didn't practice it very much, or both?
I would say it's a little bit of both. We really don't like Border. I think it's not because of the map itself. It's because of how old the map is and how the map has developed over time, with the amount, because of how the map came out back when Valkyrie and Blackbeard came out. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. They that one was so it's been a long time since they've come out, so a ton of new ops have come out which have changed the meta up on the map, but how the map is played is very similar to back then. The only thing you just don't see now is Mira being played all the time on like the walls, because everyone knows how to get rid of those, but it's like the map is very stale, it's very stagnant, there's not a lot of change over the years that's happened to it, so it's very boring to play. So that's why I think a lot of people don't like it in general. That's why I've noticed most teams don't like it, and I would say we don't like it for that reason. And also we don't practice it a lot, because a lot of times it was our insta ban when we came to map ban phase. We would always ban that over Consulate. And at the very end of the season, the last match, we were like, you know what, we're gonna give it a try, because we did scrim on it a couple times and we felt comfortable with it. We banned Consulate instead, and it ended up not going our way, but I would say it is a little bit of both.
No, I can always tell how a team plays based off of a map that they choose over another, and I'm guessing that do you guys play a lot more aggressive more than strategic?
I would say no. I would say again, I'm going to go with a little bit of both, but it's because I see it from our point of view. I guess if you look at it from a viewer's point of view, it might look a little bit different. Like we play really aggressive compared to other teams, and we play not as strategic. But when we're in Discord together, when we're playing our maps, I would have to say we are playing a little bit of both. We know when to challenge certain things, we know when to push, and we know when to work as a team to get something done, and if we need to accomplish it. But we at the same time know that if we're going to take ones, that we're gonna win our ones majority of the time.
Yeah.
We are a team that have that aim and that skill, that raw skill to win our ones, and we know it. So we will challenge if we can, if we think that we can win it. And that's why I think a lot of teams see us as that aggressive, hyper aggressive team, but they're only seeing the hyper aggression after or before our actual strats are being thrown through.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've just noticed that a lot of the teams that choose a map like Consulate over Border is because Consulate really rewards hyper aggressive gameplay, while Border really rewards people with a more like a less aggressive, more like strategic mindset, if that makes sense.
I do. I agree with that a lot. Border is a way different field than Consulate. Consulate's all about those angles. It's about long angles, about holding angles. Like that's why if you watch a PL match, I'm gonna say PL. I don't know if I'm guessing everyone knows what PL stands for, just Pro League, but I'm just shortening it. PL they just have everyone on repel. Like when it's top floor, everyone's on repel for a long time. They're getting into admin. If say this is a CEO take, they're getting the admin, and then they're gonna hold these long angles on. They want you to peek this because they have the ACOGs and you have the hollows. You're gonna have the 1x scopes. You're not gonna be able to win those duels majority of the time. So they want you to take those. But on Border, it's different in the sense while there are still really long angles, Border is played a lot from below on many sites. When you have Armory, you're playing from below to try to deny plants. And when you're playing the opposite, when you're playing on the first floor, you're playing from above. You're playing from holes. You're playing from stuff like that. So there's not a lot of long angles. You're playing through floors or you're playing in small rooms. So yeah, I agree with that 100%. The maps do depend on like the team strength. But I would say if you looked at our map pick, we picked very different gameplays throughout the whole season. We played a lot of Cafe. We like Cafe. And we also played a lot of Club and Bank. Those are all played completely differently. I think it's we are a team that knows how to adapt to our map pool. We know what map requires how much aggression, while other maps will require a little bit of aggression. So it's like it's a give and pool sort of thing, give and take sort of scenario.
And now, see, that's essentially like the right answer when asking a team like how to play, because a lot of teams don't know how to adapt. A lot of teams rely heavily on either their gun skill or rely heavily on their strats. And I think that's why you guys won all these leagues, is because your teams know how to adapt. You guys know how to be aggressive when needed. You guys know how to implement strategies when they need to be, depending on the team that you're playing. So I think that's really impressive.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna guess that whenever there was a patch and there was balance changes to one operator or a map or another, that it didn't really phase you all for long. You went in, you understood what those changes were, and it didn't really change your gameplay or your plan. But obviously, there's going to be some changes just depending on the relative strength of the nerf or the buff or whatever was going on. Or like in the the last couple of weeks, having new operators being available, at least in Pro League. I don't think there were any. I don't think Goyo and
Amaru, yeah.
Amaru. I can never remember their names.
It's a
I
weird
don't
one.
like Amaru.
No one does. It's a bad op.
So they didn't come into any play during the CR6 league, but all the balance patches and everything aside, like I'm assuming that you all adapted to those changes quickly, and you weren't really hung up, or like none of your strategies really hung on any of those changes. Yeah.
No, I would say our map pool, or not map pool, our operator pool for each player is basically we're able to play whatever. If they were to nerf, so say they were to nerf Ash or Jaeger, my boy Matt over here isn't gonna hurt from. He knows how to play other ops. He can definitely gun with any op he picks up. If he picked up that Maestro, I'm 100% he could just roam with that Maestro gun with him. So like I don't think the operator pools is really what's gonna kill us, and we're able to adapt to it. If a nerf does come to a gun and it's to the point like almost like the Twitch nerf when they brought the nerf to the F2 and they lowered the bullet count to her, we still played her. I mean, because at the end of the day, if you hit your shots with her, the bullet count doesn't matter. It only takes 5 bullets to kill someone. So
That's ironic you say that because they are getting ready to nerf Jaeger and Maestro. So
that's why I said that, because I knew that was coming. I know it's
yeah.
gonna be a big one.
I wouldn't say that Maestro's getting a nerf, but Jaeger's gun is getting a pretty solid nerf with that damage decrease, especially with his rate of fire. So it's probably going to put it on par with like Valk's gun, I think.
The reasoning that they were, now this isn't confirmed, but I think the big reason why they want to do that is because they want Wamai to shine a little bit more.
It is confirmed. That was in their patch notes.
Okay.
It was like, you know how they say, they nerf something and then they're like, oh, we feel blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
That was their description for that. They were like, we feel that, Jaeger's gun is the best gun on defense. So we are gonna nerf the damage to allow, people to switch over to Wamai a little bit easier, and make him a little bit more viable. So
Now, when it comes to competitive play, I really do think that Goyo is going to change the meta up a lot for certain maps because of his denial. So I really do think that once Goyo is allowed to be played in our comp matches, it's really going to shift up how border is played, because now instead of having to worry about just smoke canisters, now you have to worry about shields that have bombs attached to them. So, and that can deny a space just like a smoke canister.
With Goyo, it's obviously a double-edged sword. It can work for you or work against you. Now, do you always usually have a fear when playing Goyo that those shields are gonna kill your team?
I think, yeah, there's always a risk to where you're gonna place those Goyo shields. Like, I think it's definitely strategic where you should place them, but at the same time, if you're playing Goyo, you should be working with your Jaeger or your Wamai to help you with that, because if they're able to grab those nades or grab those impacts to get rid of those, to get into stuff that would counter that shield play, I feel like that can really slow down the progress of like harming your team. But at the same time, I feel that Goyo, definitely his shields are very much strategically. You have to place them properly. If you don't, you can get your team killed. If a Maestro is on his cam and he's sitting right by a shield, a Goyo shield, and that thing blows up and kills him, I feel like that's one of your faults, because he's gonna be sitting at half wall and border, and you put a shield there, and that gets blown up from below, and he dies from it. It's stuff like that. It's definitely, Goyo does take some skill to play, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was talking with, me and Joe talked about this on the podcast last week, and I was talking about Goyo, and the things that you have to keep in mind when playing Goyo is, not only do you have to think about where you place those shields, but you also have to think about your individual placement to those shields, because especially if you're an anchor and you're on cams, you don't want to be sitting like next to or near one of those shields when they blow up, or if they blow up. So
correct, yeah. I think Goyo will also change Consulate up a lot too. We've been scrimming with them, and I've been finding some interesting stuff that you could do with them on those maps. So I think it's really going to shift up, like I said, the meta. I'm really excited for it.
Now, one thing I have to say, that this is the first time that adaptability has really been a team's strong suit, more so than like what Syntax was saying with gunplay or strategies. Like, it's rare to find a team that can adapt so quickly to meta changes, operator changes, map changes, and even then your opponent's strategies as well, which is where we see some of the most dominant teams in the Pro League as well, is that their abilities to not just have deep strategies or good gunplay, it's that they can counteract any weirdness that the other team's bringing in, whether it's target bans in the beginning, or if it's just bringing a new operator like Warden into one round or another, and just being able to counter that in the middle of a match and just kind of brush it aside so that the opponents stop doing that. How do you feel like you helped coach that into your staff, into your team, just being able to be like, this is how we're going to play this game, or this is how we naturally kind of align, so let's focus on that? How did you discover that, and how did you kind of nurture that ability that came from your team?
So my team is actually very well rounded when it comes to skill and how they play. And my role as a coach, while a coach normally would tell someone how to play, I actually have CJ for Days on my team, who originally actually was a 2-time CL player. So the man has actually a lot of background when it comes to competitive Siege. Over me learning how to be a proper coach, he's actually helped me out a lot. And he in the middle of our games will help me. He'll guide me in the sense of like, all right, man, I think we should do this, and then I'm able to work off of it at that point. I'm able to be like, all right, hey, I see what we're trying to go for. Maybe we should try pulling it back and doing this instead, or doing that direction where you're going, and then just making a little bit of a tweak to it, and then a lot of times that'll end to a success, or maybe the original plan was what worked out and it worked for us. So like I feel like there was a really good example that we had where we were playing on Clubhouse and we were playing CC first. I mean, we were on attack first. They ended up banning Thatcher on attack, and we ended up banning Maverick because I was like, oh, well, when we tried tricking this wall, I don't want a Maverick shooting me through little holes. So we ended up screwing ourselves over basically because now we have to rely on a thermite, we have to rely on a Habana, and then we have to get the stuff from below or stop him from band tricking because now there's nothing to stop him from band tricking except for a Capital bolt, and that's easy to counter in a way. So we ended up, I think, throwing 3 rounds at him, and how this was a really interesting. I learned this after this one map. We would play them on all of their sites and see how they play, and then we would just adjust how we would play each time. And we ended up winning. Actually, we won the last site, so we ended up winning on that half 4-2 with us being basically in a disadvantage on attack and taking the map 7-2 because of this. Our flexibility was just a lot there. And with my team having that experience, I never feel like I have to coach them to do something. I can give them a guidance, and then they will just be like, they're down for it right off the bat, and they know what to do for each one of their roles.
Got to be nice to have a team that clicks like that and just understands what they got to do. That's a huge sign of a lot of trust and respect amongst your teammates. So, I mean, that's a huge boon. Are you going to be able to hold on to that team going into the spring seasons for all these leagues, or is anyone graduating this season?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm able to hold on to everyone. Thank God. I was really glad once I heard that none of them was graduating after that fall, because once I found out when they're all graduating, I was pretty happy because I got to at least be with this team for one more season. And I've been playing with CJ and Matt for a year now. Going on a year now. I started playing with CJ back in the beginning of last year, consistently at the beginning of last year. Me and CJ have been around since the beginning of CR6, since season 1. And CJ was originally on our Akron's CSGO team. So once he left that to go to Siege, we got Varsity. He put all his time and effort into that. And I found out that these guys I have are actually really good at what they do. And I feel like I hit the jackpot basically with these guys. So it was really nice to know that I had some really skilled players on my hands, and then be able to play with them one more season. Yeah, I'm really happy about that.
Now, do you guys plan on doing anything beyond Collegiate League with your team?
Well, currently we're about to start playing in the CL quals. Right now, we're using that mainly for practice and playing stronger opponents. Because as of right now, when we scrim, we really don't scrim a lot of collegiate teams anymore. And this isn't really a dig at a lot of collegiate teams, but we just don't find the competitiveness there anymore for us. It's gonna sound cocky, but it's not at the same time. Like there's a handful of teams in collegiate league that we find that are beneficial to scrim against, and then we would learn a little bit from it. But other teams we scrim, we just don't find any benefit from it. So we want to play some harder competition, some competition that will actually allow us to learn something and allow us to learn how to work together better compared to playing a lower team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I really don't think you should be shameful when you say that, because in one of our earlier podcasts, I was talking to Joe about how CR6 is really good is good for introducing people to the competitive world in Rainbow Six. And as a team, you grow and you grow and you grow, but after a while, you're gonna hit a threshold of skill level, and if the teams within the collegiate league aren't within those skill boundaries, that's not worth improving your guys' skill as a team. Then there should be no shame in reaching out to a team that's better or just as good as you, from an outside league, to help scrim with you guys. I don't think there's any shame in that. I don't think that's cocky to say. Every team is going to grow. You guys just grew faster than everyone else, so I totally understand. I used to be part of the Tamu squad, and that's what we did. We found that not we couldn't find the competitiveness in collegiate anymore. So when we started doing CL quals and USN quals, we started coming into these really good teams that wanted to become our scrim partners, and that's who we started scrimming with. So
yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we want to find those big teams that actually challenge us and allow us to lose in a scrim, because I just find scrims not to be useful. If you're like demolishing a scrim, if you're stomping a scrim, there's really no benefit for you at that point.
Yeah,
It's better for you to have, for either team. Yeah, they're not really, while they might be learning their defense and learning where their flaw is, if they're just getting smacked every time, it's just not really beneficial for either one, because that's not their play style. That's not what they're used to playing. So they're not going to actually adapt to it properly. So if we verse a team that actually allows us to lose a map, or pushes us to actually it challenges us to change how we play a certain map or a certain site, then that's what I'm looking for.
exactly.
Well, I want to be sensitive to your time, Chayton, because I know it's late your time. So why don't we let you have the floor and do any shout outs that you would like to say, or any final words that you would like to say about your bald triple crown achievement and what it looks like going into the spring season?
I would like to thank, of course, Akron for giving us the opportunity of becoming a varsity sport and seeing our potential. It really helped us flourish into who we are today. I would also like to thank my team for just being there, basically always being willing to improve and strive to be the best. And you can go and follow me on Twitter at Chayton Hamrick. I think it's in the title for most of the streams. And thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, no problem, man. We enjoyed having you on.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. And again, congratulations on your CR6 win, your CEA win, your CRSL win. That's way more than I thought I was getting when I invited you onto the podcast, but it's clearly you all have done your work and are going to be a team to watch in the spring. So good luck getting ready for it, and I hope all the success to your team going forward. Thanks again for joining us.
All right, thanks.
All right.
All right.
Now that it's just the two of us, we can get on with some more CR6 action, as we finally got the last matches done for the open league playoffs.
Oh, okay.
Which is great, because we're like 2 full weeks into 2020 and we are finally ending our fall season.
Yeah.
But what we saw last was that Northern Arizona University, number 1, was going to play Iowa State University in the semifinals, number 4, and that was the last match to decide who was going to play University of Kentucky. Turns out, number 1, Northern Arizona University, beat Iowa State 2-0. But then when we get to the grand finals, number 6, University of Kentucky, takes it 2-1 against Northern Arizona. So we had an upset in the grand finals coming from a team who's been straddling that upper echelon for a while. They had like one major slip up during phase 2, and that's what put them at basically seed number 6 at the end. But for all of that, if we look at even the Premier League, we saw similarities between teams 1 and 13, really, where there was like really no difference between like teams 1 through 4, and then it was still close with teams 5 through 13. After that, we started seeing some fall off between when you started comparing them to other teams further down the list. But hey, now we have our Open Division champions, University of Kentucky, which I'm going to reach out to them and see if we can get some comments and a guest from their team on the next week or so. But I also want to reach out to Northern Arizona University, as well as Simon Fraser, the runners-up from the Premier League Championship. So we're done with the fall season. Don't have any new information about the spring as of yet. I believe they're piling everything together since they just finished up the fall league. They're working on improvements, making some additional changes, and starting to close in on what that spring season is going to look like. So we'll just have to wait until then, until they're ready to talk about it. First, we can talk about it.
Yeah, I hope they don't get backed up, because not only do they have to finish everything from the fall season, I think they're also dealing with sign-ups for the new season. So I think signups are going for a while. So if you're a college team that wants to get into this, go forth and sign your team up for either CR6 or CEA. I don't know if there are websites for them, but I know they have Discords. I do not know how you would get an invite though. So
yeah, and it's also important to note that CRSL as well as CEA are working on their signups for their spring season as well. So if you want to catch all of the collegiate Rainbow Six action, you'll have to follow all 3 of those leagues and see how those all pan out. I don't have dates off the top, but starting next week, I'm going to have more details on all 3 of those leagues. And I'm trying to organize a conversation with one of the main organizers of the CEA league, so we'll be able to get some more insight there as well soon. So the collegiate scene,
you're going to talk to an organizer with CEA league?
Yeah. So that's I forget his name. I don't have his
You're going to bring
actual
him
name,
on, or
but
are you just going to have a conversation?
no, I'm going to bring him on a podcast episode of the Summoning Hour. So one of the other podcasts, I'm going to get a full hour of him to get his background and his insights and everything, and we'll certainly talk a little bit about that, about the league and what it means for CR, or about for R6. But it would be easy to have him on as a guest as well for our podcast, the Check Your Six podcast, so that we can get some more, or they can get some more broadcasting strength, and we can get some more understanding about the league and where they're going with it, what their goals are. So we're going to get to know more leagues and more individuals who are helping to shape collegiate Rainbow Six as a whole, not just one league at a time.
Yeah.
So lots of gears moving.
All right. So no, it's okay. I was kind of done talking. But do you have any, with the new information about the Open League, do you have anything to say about that?
Not really. I mean, it makes sense that I did see it's like 128 teams, I want to say, is the max that CRSL is going to have for their open invite league. And then I think it's 32 teams, or it's 32 or 24 teams that make up the invite league. So it's the best of the best playing each other, and they'll go through, like Chayton was saying, they'll go through relegation for any of the bottom teams, and then they'll invite some new teams from the open league. So we get a little bit of that back and forth, and I'm going to enjoy the longer season between the divisions, as opposed to taking only 4 weeks to determine who the top teams are, and then 4 more weeks to sort it out a little bit more, and then shuffling everyone together that we had in phase 3. It was kind of weird, but it also kind of worked out consistently. So I applaud that organization of that tournament for CR6, but I'm also looking forward to seeing the best teams play longer.
Okay. Well, with that being said, Pro League. Did you
Yes,
happen
Pro
to
League.
catch any? Before I start
I
talking about Pro League, did you watch any of the Pro League?
I did. I caught a couple of the games. I caught Dark Zero, and then I caught what was the other game? It ended up in a tie, and I can't remember who I watched this morning on the bus.
That was
It was
that was EU, I think. It
yes,
was
EU
Liquid and
United.
Elevate.
No, it was TSM and Luminosity.
Oh yes, okay. That
That
was
match was
yesterday.
insane.
Yeah. Which honestly, like TSM and LG tying, was honestly a massive surprise to me. I thought TSM was going to put them in the floor, and they didn't. Honestly,
Luminosity looks so impressive.
I'm gonna say right now, every team in NA looks impressive right now. Um, I think NA looks really strong this season, and I cannot wait for like another major or even SI, because I think NA is actually going to be a strong arm in the competitive scene now. So I'm really excited for the future of NA Pro League.
I agree. I mean, between how just straight up fearsome Luminosity was in their match against TSM, they owned it all. Like they owned that defense just like TSM did. But the way that Luminosity handled it, it was so much more commanding. And that team, like if they can figure out the attack on that map, and then if they can figure out how to apply that to that level of strategy and preparation for all their other matches, they can execute like that. The 3, 4, 5, and 6 teams of NA Pro League are going to be scary to deal with.
Yeah, and one more thing about this match. So, I don't know what happened to Slashug, but like ever since he has been absolutely dominant. He has been the alpha male in almost every match he's played. Um, CGG really needs to record how many aces he's had in, because he's had a lot. Um,
That's,
I
I mean,
I don't
yeah, I
I,
mean,
I don't know
that
if it
goes
was
back.
his team that was holding him back. Maybe the new team is actually like putting him to his full potential. Honestly, like he is performing his ass off.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I've been watching him for like the past 2 seasons really, and it's just like he always had those spots of brilliance, but like it just never seemed to be in the right time at the right place for consistency. But the way he's going about it right now, it's setting him and his team up to really just tee off once they work through any of their lingering issues or executions or strategies. Like if they can figure out, if they can really address their problems and let Slash do his thing, he's there's just not going to be anything in their way.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're like, Bosco might be the only person who I hold in like a higher regard in terms of gunplay, but like that's all I've got. But Slash is consistently week over week been even above Bosco, except for when Bosco just tears off on the team.
Yeah. Another one that kind of put me on edge. It was kind of an emotional roller coaster. Was the DZ versus EU match. Um, I was kind of worried for a second. I was like, "There's no way that this team of this, DZ, a team of absolute gunners, is going to lose to this brand new Pro League team." I was like, "No way!" But DZ finally bucked up in the end and took the victory. So
Just
I'm
barely
re-
though, because it was a
yeah,
5-5. It was looking like
yeah.
it was going to tie. Like, and every match of DZ's this season, the 3 games that they've had, has gone the full distance, full 12 rounds. And
Hmm.
everything, like they've either tied or they've won 2, but it's been 7-5, 7-5 wins, and then 6-6, the 6-6 tie. Like they do not look dominant against anybody, and that's kind of scary because United is, like you said, they're a new team. and I can't even remember how well they're doing, but with the loss here, they're probably bottom 2. I haven't looked at the updated standings, but if DZ is having that much trouble against a team that is brand new, that doesn't have the same level of chemistry and execution as DZ had going into the going into Japan in December, like, that's crazy. And I know we said NA is really impressive right now, but it's also kind of scary to think that all of the teams are this close to each other, because it either means that all of NA is really, really good, and we're seeing those spots of brilliance, and we're thinking, hey, NA is really good, or we're not collectively as a whole, the NA scene is not as good as some of the other regions, just because when you look at EU, there is a dominant team. When you look at ANZ, there is a dominant team, and when you play that first place team against 8th place, you know who's going to win. I don't think you have that level of clarity in NA. And it's hard to say whether it's because the skill is so close and we're all that good, or the skills are that close and we're all that bad.
Yeah. I agree. Let's see. What's the other match? Space Station Tempo. No big surprise there, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, Space Station taking Tempo to Coastline. Space Station was just dominant on that map. Absolutely dominant. I don't know what happened. I mean, it's no surprise that Space Station won, but at the same time, I'm actually really surprised at how badly Tempo performed. Like, looking at the stats, like, they're all below 1.0. I don't know if Space Station just had some insane plays. This is the one match that I actually didn't catch. I saw some highlight reels, but that was about it. But Tempo, I guess they just didn't have their shit together for this map. I mean, I think they have some serious work to do on Coastline.
Absolutely. But I mean, as much as all of Tempo was under 1.0, like, you just have to look at their cost. No one was above a 0.56. It's just like the entire team got shut down, like, before they could do anything. Before anyone could provide value in a round, or they were only able to provide minimal amounts of value per round. And if you can't get an initial spark going, this game is just going to collapse all around you. And they didn't even get a break at the half when they swapped sides. Like, if defense was supposed to be where they shone, they only got 2 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they swapped to attack, they just got decimated. Like, when you see 7-2, it just feels like the other team outgunned you, outstrategized you, and just ran circles around you.
Yeah. And if you look, literally every single round was won by elimination.
Yeah.
That entire match, there was only one plant.
One objective play, yeah. And no 1vx's. Not a single one. So it's Space Station going in and swarming, and any of the rounds that Tempo Storm won was just they were never at a disadvantage or an extreme disadvantage, like 2v3, and then they somehow pulled it off, or whatever the case was. Like, no one popped off, no one became a spark, a reason to say, hey, we can actually do this. They were just playing their game. And I'm really curious, like, I don't remember the last time I saw a Dokkaebi banned.
Yeah, that is actually insanely interesting, especially on Coastline. I don't think that anyone on Space Station actively plays Dokkaebi. I don't remember the last time I saw anyone on Space Station play Dokkaebi. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't know what their plan was with that. So, um,
I can't
I'm
even think of anything off the top of my head about Coastline that would say Dokkaebi is a problem.
yeah, I can't think of anything either. So I would actually have to go back and break it down to figure out why exactly they banned Dokubi, or maybe it was just a on the spot ban. Maybe they just don't like to deal with the phone calls on defense. Maybe that's just it. But Space Station had both reasonable bans, Jackal and Valk. I'm actually okay. I'm actually surprised Space Station banned Jackal, since Bosco is a monster
A
on
beast.
Jackal. But it's
Yeah.
yeah. At the same time, with Jackal being on the board on Coastline, your life can get really difficult really fast because of how small the map is. There's no escape. There's no real escape routes because since Coastline is very small, say like a Jackal tracks you and you're in security. We'll say there's someone in main lobby and there's someone in blue bar. Both your routes are cut off. Like you're dead. There's no escaping that. There's no second exit out of that, and that's literally the entire map, There's only two ways to get out of anything. And if both of those routes are cut off, you're screwed. Um, Even from below, because how small the map is, pretty much pretty much all the floors are destructible. So you can get shot from any which way.
It's also interesting that Space Station chooses to go Jackal and Valkyrie after Dokkaebi because Dokkaebi's another intel gatherer with her gadget. So between being able to track where everyone's at or give you some insight on positioning, they just 3 intel gathering operators were taken off the board. And so maybe this was Space Station's power play, just to be like, okay, you don't want intel, we'll give you no intel. And they just took everything off the board. And if I saw that that's Butters. There was a lot of mute
Well,
play.
the
So
thing is
if
about these
this is
bans is they go into these matches knowing who they're banning before the match begins. So like, if it doesn't really matter who like they ban, like as it's happening, they still have their dedicated. Like they went into the match saying, okay, this is who we're banning. There's really no deviating from.
even like a weird ban like Dokkaebi wouldn't get SSG to be like, we'll try something different, or you think that they were just like,
I
no, we're
mean,
sticking to that
it's a
plan? 'Cause, that
possibility,
would make
but
sense too.
it's a possibility, but it's highly unlikely. I think it made Space Station kind of tilt their heads and like, okay, that's weird, but I don't think it threw them off. I think they banned the people who they were going to ban. I mean, they have secondary bans just in case like the team bans their operator before them. And so they have a secondary pick. Maybe the Dokkaebi caused them to use their secondary bans. Who knows? We'll never know that because that's insider information. But
The one thing I was thinking about this and seeing that mute was played a lot, I would go back to the VOD and see if Space Station played any Mozzie. Because then you have no Doke, you have no Jackal, you have no Valk, and then you take away any ability to drone with the Mozzie mute combo. And that's like a huge deprivation of information. And seeing that SSG really came alive with 5 rounds in a row, 3 of them being on the final 3 being on defense, like it seems like that really set them up for potentially doing the intel starving, just making them waste time. And with Bosco and Canadian playing as they do, like you could see them roaming and causing a lot of problems with that lack of intel going on, and especially against the Tempo Storm team, who hasn't performed as well as as well as anyone would want, right?
yeah, and I mean, from what it looks like Butters played Mozzie. but it looks like he's the only one who played Mozzie.
Or that was his favorite, the one that he played most.
Yeah. I know SSG likes to play Mute. Mute is insanely strong on this map, because he denies that attacker intel, because of how small the map is. Once again, there's not many places for a drone to go, and when you cut off all those routes with a Mute jammer, they're not going to be able to drone anything. That's why Mute is insanely powerful in this map.
Yeah, that's an interesting game. Like, as much as it was a blowout, that Dokkaebi ban makes me want to dive into a little bit more and see what Tempo Storm's strategy actually was.
Yes. Next game, Reciprocity versus EG. Now, Reciprocity took this match 7-2. This match was crazy. I don't know if you watched any of this.
No, I didn't get to this one.
Crazy. Every now and then, Laxing Hulk smashes the other team, and this is one of those matches. You need to go back and watch some of the clips from this match, because Laxing asserted his dominance pretty much every single round. And it was just insane to watch. It was a really good match. There was a match where it was post plant. It was a 2v5 post plant with Laxing and Retro, I think, on defense. As soon as post plant goes down, Laxing goes out and just wipes the floor with 4 of them. Like 4Ks them. Like, it wasn't even like
round 1.
It wasn't even it wasn't even like they were all in one area and he mowed them all down. It was like he hunted them down on the map. It was crazy to watch, because it was like he knew exactly where everyone was. Like, it was funny watching the ESA caster, or the spectator, because he switched to one person, and all of a sudden you see Laxton come around the corner and just smack him in the face, and he switched to the next character, and Laxton come around the corner and kill that guy, and he switched to the next person. Laxton comes out the front door and swings and kills that person. I was like, oh my gosh.
That's fantastic.
It was crazy. It was funny to watch. It was also crazy.
I want the clip with comms from Reciprocity when he does that. I just want to hear what happened on comms there.
Yeah, me too. He was playing Moz, and I think he had his drones in all of the right places. Any drones he might have captured in all of the right places, because literally as soon as post plant went down, he went exactly to where everyone was, and he picked them off one by one. But yeah, that was that match. It was pretty much Laxing versus the other team.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the round by round, Reciprocity going 6 rounds in a row, and then EG has a couple defensive rounds, but then Reciprocity closes out with 1 round on all. Like, to clear an entire half by round timer, by site retake, and diffuser disable, and then elimination the rest of the time. Like, EG had a plan. They came in, and Reciprocity just took over. Like, EG didn't have a retake, or it didn't have a hold when they were defending the diffuser. They took too long to get anything going. Reciprocity it looks like they actually just hunted them down. Like, it looks like there was nothing EG could do.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yikes. But then again, I felt that way about the Luminosity DZ game. I'm just like, Luminosity TSM game. Like, I was, okay, Luminosity, it's, what was it, 5 rounds to 1 or something like that. And I'm like, okay, this one's over. And then they switch sides, and TSM just runs it back the other way. Like, okay, well, I guess it's not really over until it's over. But in this case, Reciprocity slammed the door shut.
Yeah.
Who do we have playing next week?
Next week, let's look at upcoming. We got Space Station versus EU. We got Dark Zero versus EG. We have LG versus Reciprocity. We have TSM versus Tempo. Now, here are my predictions for next week. Space Station, DZ, Reciprocity, and TSM. Those are my predictions.
I can't argue with you. I can't argue with that. But I hope E United shows up like they did this week and gives us a 7-5. Like if they can stand up to SSG, I would feel a whole lot more comfortable with where NA is as a whole. That way it's not E United just got lucky against DZ and it was just a flavor mismatch that made it so close. But if they can stand up to SSG, then that's really proving where they're at. And I think they're 6th overall in the placements right now. But like, yeah, EG and Tempo, they need to figure something out. I feel pretty good about TSM. Luminosity, I'm going to cheer for Luminosity, but I also feel like Reciprocity is going to come out on top with that one.
I think so too. Now, I say that Space Station is going to win versus EU because I think a big reason that EU was able to go 7-5 against DZ was for the fact that, remember a while ago I was talking to you about how LG came in and stomped Pro League, but then they stopped winning because people started figuring out how they played.
Right.
I think that was the case with EU. DZ didn't have any sort of intel on EU other than the fact when they played as Two-Face or Obey, I'm sorry, when they were a whole team as Obey. And that was it, and now they have 2 players, so now their whole playstyle could be changed up. So it was kind of a shot in the dark of how they were going to play against EU. But now that they have an idea, I guarantee you, and I know for a fact that a lot of DC players are good friends with the people on Space Station, because they play ranked together all the time.
Right.
I guarantee you they're going to pass that information on to Space Station. I guarantee it. So I fully expect Space Station to take advantage of either the information that they might get from DZ or that match that just happened. And I think Space Station is going to come in swinging hard.
Maybe this is just me, and this is the level of competition that I'm taking it to. If I was DZ, and yes, I'm friends with people on SSG and all that, and I was like, oh, well, United came in and they were kind of a dark horse against Dark Zero. I like the dark horse analogy. But if they came in and gave us a hard time, I almost want to make my buddies go through a hard time too. And maybe not give United information on SSG, but not give anything to SSG either, because right now Space Station is 1 point behind DZ. And any advantage you can have over your opponents is best held on to. SSG, they've looked really good since December, since the start of December. Whatever adjustments they've made, whatever play adjustments they've done, they've looked really good. And DZ not looking as dominant as they were before the break, there's got to be some contention there. I kind of hope DZ just withholds everything. They go radio silent until this match is over. Just that way, if EU United wins or even pulls off a draw, that's it's at least an opportunity for DZ to win barely, tie, and keep ahead of Space Station Gaming. But if they lose and they get nothing and Space Station wins, that means Space Station overcomes them in the standings. And I don't think that DZ is willing to give up that second place spot.
Yeah, I can agree with that. At the same time, um, I can see, with DZ and SSG, them playing ranked and being buddies and all. I can see some of the guys on Space Station kind of smooth talking the conversation to get them to open up about the match. Guarantee you, because that's what I would do,
Sure.
as friends. I know that they may not want to say anything to me to not help me out, but I'm going to try and direct the conversation to get them to start talking about the match and get that information out of them. I can see that happening as well, but ideally, the ideal situation would be for DZ to just zip their lips and let Space Station play them on their own. At the same time, I mean, I don't think there's really much that DZ can say that Space Station didn't see in the VOD.
That's
So, that's about all the intel that anyone has on it so far.
So do you think if you're Space Station, do you try and take them back to the same map, or do you try and get them on a different map so you have more information on them later down this season, or do you try and confine them to one so that you can get the points?
There's a couple different things that can happen. I think EU is going to ban the map they just played because I think they might have the same mentality as you, that the team might take me to that same map, so I don't want to play that map again, right? Since I just played it last week and now everyone knows some of our strats for that map. So I'm going to ban that map because I don't want to play it again if they're smart. But at the same time, I don't think Space Station would take them to that same map. I think they want to bring them to their turf. Space Station is going to bring them to their turf so they can smack on them on their own turf. I think that's the ideal situation for any team. They want to bring them to their best map so they can smack on them. So I don't think Space Station is going to take them to that same map if it's left open.
I can get behind it either way. Like it's going to be a good match either way, and I look forward to seeing how well NA can prove as a whole region where they're at. I think this is going to be the map or the match that kind of defines this season for NA. It's either going to be NA is stacked with powerhouses, with 6 of the 8 teams being really good, or it's going to be it's anyone's guess, and then we're not going to represent well internationally.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, SSG, I'm going to keep going back to them, and DZ. They both did really well in December. DZ's got some stuff to figure out. They're figuring it out. They keep pulling out the W's, so something's working. So they don't have to change everything, obviously. But SSG, DZ, they give me hope, and I mean Reciprocity too. I can't forget them. They were the runners up, and they also went to Japan. They knew what they were doing. I just hope that all 3 of those teams can hold on to where they were and really set this season to improve. Because, damn it, I want to see some NA move farther and take one of those tournaments. Damn it.
I do too. I really want NA to make a bigger name for themselves rather than people spamming in Twitch chat the old NA copy pasta.
Right.
Do you know what that one is?
Unfortunately, I do. I'm okay not seeing it, not saying it ever again. All right, I think that rounds us out for the week. We've got good matches coming up next week. We've got plenty of collegiate coverage coming up, talking about more leagues, and those will be starting off sooner than later. So we might be focusing more on Pro League and maybe even outside of NA next week, as we have little to nothing to say about collegiate, but it's coming. I hope everyone's enjoying it, and at the very least, I hope to have another collegiate guest on over the next several weeks until we're back into matches, and look forward to getting to know some more of the players. You got anything else for the night?
I don't think so. I was just thinking about that. I don't think I have anything.
Yeah, I'm good here. I'm excited to see more of the patch notes and play some more of the road to SI. So if you're loving the coverage for NA Pro League, by all means, please contribute to the battle pass that's going on. Make sure that these teams are fed. Make sure that everyone knows that you want Pro League to continue. I shouldn't have to tell you my sad story of helping to cover the competitive scene of Heroes of the Storm and what kind of a devastation and black hole that left in my heart after that game imploded. You don't want that to happen to your game. Please buy the battle pass and support these teams. They're doing it because they love the game, they love competing, and we should do everything to preserve this because we all like that. So please go out and support it. With that, bid everyone adieu and good night. We will see you all next week and hopefully have some more good coverage and good R6 to talk about. With that, later everyone.
See you guys next week.